Guys, hello. We are not in China, actually. Did we open the last one with that?
Yeah.
I think we did.
Every time we come here, we find inspiration.
Guy.
No, we actually just wanted to do a little wrap up because we kind of just left.
We did. We aren't in China. Anyone can guess where we are. I wonder if you can guess. Some people might be able to guess quite quickly, but we aren't in China. Now, what's super interesting is I just want to kind of go back to what we thought China was going to be like before we ever entered. And the stuff you hear on the news, let me tell you, China is not the country you think it is. You know, you hear on the news that China's economy is collapsing. China is dangerous, the big brother state. There's cameras everywhere. They're following you everywhere. They don't like the British. I was really worried before I went to China, actually. I was actually quite scared. I thought people were going to be quite suspicious of us as Westerners.
Some people didn't like any Westerners, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the impression the media gives you. But let me tell you, that is completely all wrong. What the media tells you is completely different. When you go to China, you will find out. But now, China's not any old country that you can go to. You've got to do your homework, haven't you? Yeah. That's why you need someone like Julia. Julia does the homework. Let me tell you, you think you can roll in, Google Maps, check where a restaurant is. Don't work like that. China requires so much extra work, doesn't it? Extra legwork that you have to pull out.
We usually do that, and we still do it with China, but it's a lot more different and more difficult than with any other country, really.
It is.
So I think, it does require some preparation, and I still feel like on the first trip we didn't manage to get this preparation done because we were like super busy with other trips before. So it was extremely difficult.
So this trip felt a lot more prepared for, and when we got there, we knew kind of some of the stuff we liked, and that's kind of what you need to do with China. It's not like you can look at on maps and whatever. You've kind of got to get to China, find out what you like, spend a few weeks there and start to kind of speak to locals, understand the culture a little bit, understand the food, understand how things work, use the different payment systems, get around Baidu and Apple Maps a little bit, and the country becomes incredible. It's like nothing you've ever seen before. Now this trip was incredible because we started off in Guangzhou. Now we'd never been to Guangzhou before.
It's a huge surprise, Guangzhou.
Wow, what a city. What a flipping city.
It quickly became one of our favourites. It's not our favourite.
It is one of our favourites in China. But the thing about China is a multitude of different countries in one almost. There is so much to see in that country. And Guangzhou had the most amazing skyline we've ever seen. The sunflowers, everything was just incredible. And what visas were we on, actually? You wanted to mention the visa situation.
I think a few people were quite confused by the route we took. So basically, in the first trip, we did all the cities we felt we had to do, which is all first-timers do when they go to China. Yeah. Although they're quite spaced out, so you end up traveling long distance. And on this trip, we said, we're not going to do that. Because basically, the problem with us was that we ended up being on two different visas. Because Pa, as a British citizen, had to pay for his visa, whereas me, as an Italian citizen, I had 15 days visa-free, which is super convenient. And in fact, it's just been changed to 30 days.
But not for British. Still British, we still have to get visas.
Yes, still not, because you still have your visa.
I did.
But unfortunately, when we went back in, was it September?
Yeah.
Back in September, it was still 15 days visa-free. So we had to try to find an itinerary that we could cover in 15 days. And we wanted to fly to Hainan, which had a 30 days visa-free for both of us. So we did this kind of like route.
Right. That's the interesting thing. So this is a point. So the visa situation in China is like nothing you've ever seen before. They've got multiple different opportunities, but many of them require you to enter China.
You have to do it from outside China.
Yeah.
Obviously, we were already traveling in China, so we were in the southern China, so we did Hong Kong. We made our way back down to Shenzhen, and Hong Kong, and then took a flight to Hainan.
And the whole thing is very restrictive timing wise, but it's because of the visa situation. The amount of times we had to enter and exit, even the immigration must have been like, what the fuck are you two doing? So guys, so we did a kind of video on what surprised us about China, but let me tell you from this second trip, because China you cannot go to China. Let me tell you, you cannot have a fair representation after a week, after 2 weeks. China requires you to be there for at least a month and actually understand.
Yeah.
It's not
and
even.
chances are in this time you haven't seen that much.
No.
Because there's so much to see everywhere. See in one trip.
Let's be fair, China is multiple countries in one. So people cannot, I do not trust YouTubers who went on a 2-week trip to China. It's not fair because Beijing and, Guangzhou, completely worlds apart in terms of what they're like, in terms of cities. Shenzhen is completely different to Yangshuo, Hainan. I mean, Hainan is almost very different to mainland China. Some of our videos, we had some weird comments. People, do people in mainland China,
what's your perception of Hainan?
do they
loved it.
Yeah.
We did love it, especially me. I loved Heiko more than anything. I like Sonia too, but I think Heiko's got a space in my heart.
Do people
very surprising.
in mainland China like Hainan? I know people will say yes, we all do because of Sanya, but let me tell you, we had some strange comments that made me wonder, and there were some comments and some slightly negative comments. There were some negative comments about Hainan, and I wonder whether, because does mainland China feel a little bit different in terms of is it a geographical difference? Are the people a little bit different? Because there's a lot of different races in China as well. This is what people don't understand about China. People think China is just one group, but actually China is a beautiful, mixed, diverse country of a load of different ethnicities, and it's fantastic because it's a melting pot of cultures, melting pot of food. The food, let me tell you, just gets better and better as well, though, doesn't it?
The food I think is probably the most surprising factors of all, not because of the food itself, because it's so different from what we know as Chinese food.
It is.
I would say.
Yeah.
It's like, in terms of anything, in terms of flavors, in terms of textures, in terms of even just smells.
Right.
Like when the Chinese food,
the texture,
from
the
like
taste,
any Western restaurants across Europe, across London, across like Italy. Everything is so different from the actual Chinese food you find in China.
I will not be surprised that there will be some YouTubers and some people that go to China and they really don't like the food, but they won't necessarily tell you that. But it's not a bad thing, it's because the textures in China are completely
I think the
different.
difference is...
Look at mapo tofu, look at the soft tofu. A lot of Westerners, if they eat meat, they don't like tofu naturally. And the fact that it's very soft, some of the mapo tofu, sometimes you get the really gelatinous gravy on it. And
you do get that with a lot of different foods.
We don't really have a problem with that so much ourselves. We actually quite like a lot of those dishes, but we know a lot of Westerners won't like it.
It's not common in most Western food.
No, it would be classed as slimy and strange to a Westerner. But some of my favourite dishes are some of the tofu dishes. Stinky tofu would not be eaten by Westerners.
It's one of those cultural shocks that you need to get used to.
These kind of textures are a little bit odd, and that's the thing. You can't spend 2 weeks in China because you won't get to try anything. You'll just try the obvious dishes. But there are so many dishes, even strange stuff we tried. We've not even got to show you, like the Hainanese coconut rice. Very interesting. It's served in coconut. Coconut shell, which is mind blowing. I've never seen anyone comment on that. I never knew. Warm actually, guys. Look at that. Let's try it. Whoa. It's slightly gelatinous. Actually, there is a rice there. Actually. Oh wow, you get the real coconut here, but it's really sweet as well. Guys, no one ever told us about these. When we arrived in China, we were like, wow, these glutens, these sticks of meat, they look really strange.
Where are they from? Are they from the north, technically? We had those first time in
Hainan. Some locals recommended to us, didn't they?
Because we thought it was meat or fish.
They brought them over to us, didn't they? And we were like, no. We actually can't really eat because we're vegetarian. And the thing is
they were like, what?
We've actually eaten meat and fish by accident or at times trying to be polite. We have eaten fish in Guangzhou, but generally what we do is we just try and be polite as possible. with these sticks, we were a little bit unsure because they looked a bit like scary kind of.
They look like
meat.
it could be some sort of squid even, or
Yeah,
like some, some fresh fish.
Yeah. So me and Julia were like, we don't know about the quality of this, and we were like, we're not sure. Actually, so delicious.
Turns out it was gluten.
Oh wow, the thing was like incredible. It was so
we
delicious.
found it again in Hangzhou as well. So a bit more north.
Mate, let me tell you, Chinese barbecue. Fucking hell, Chinese barbecue is mind blowing. Let me tell you one thing I learned on this trip. Chinese do barbecue the best in the flipping world. The spices is unmistakable. And let me tell you, you can eat it at 3 a.m. And let me tell you, people, when you talk about barbecue in England, sausages, chicken, steak, there's no fucking vegetables anywhere. There's nothing healthy about it. It's just meat on meat. But in China, they actually have loads of veg and loads of different things. Like, honestly, we try some really wacky shit. What about those sesame noodles that you like? We never posted that either.
Oh, they're so good. They're also some of my favourite noodles.
Cold noodles. Mate, we don't know, in the West, we don't know anything about cold noodles. Now, let me tell you, many Westerners that go to China, they won't even experience cold noodles. But let me tell you, cold noodles are mind-blowing. There's different cold noodles you can have as well. Some are super light, super salady and super fresh. Some are much heavier, like the sesame ones. Just saying that. Let me tell you what's really special about Chinese is they don't need to make everything so sugary to make it good. The textures, the feeling is right.
Yeah, we feel a lot less guilty eating anything sweet.
Guys, we have absolutely loved our time in China. As you can see, it's a country full of culture, history and heritage, and it's super rich in artistic nature. As foreigners, we understand that first feeling when you arrive in China. It's absolutely incredible. But there are some people who have been in China far longer than we have and had the opportunity to experience China's greatest artistic delight. Ever wondered what these art forms look like through the eyes of an expat? In the Journey to China 2, Residents of Art, we get to see traditional Chinese art forms such as lacquer art, the erhu, and more through the eyes of an expat. The documentary invites us to experience a deep connection between the foreign artists and their passion for both China and art. Each has the opportunity to tell their story in this fascinating country. Guys, let me tell you, it has some of the most beautiful shots I've ever seen in a documentary. And if you're interested in China and going further than any vlog could take you, check this out. The key to China's art can be quite challenging for foreigners, but this gives us a little snapshot of the lives who truly embrace and experience it. The documentary is called Journey to China 2, Residents of Art. Check it out.
What about how surprising the factor is that some cities are actually super busy, which you would expect. So like, something you expect when you go to China is everything's so crowded, you know, with tourists and everything. And sometimes it's like that, especially in our first trip, because we went during summer months and we went to Shanghai, Beijing, Chongqing and Chengdu. It was obviously full of families. It was like prime family time. But there's also some places that we went to, especially in the second trip, they're not crowded at all. In fact, they feel like so peaceful and stuff. Even just going to Yangshuo, like outside the main touristy area, it was so peaceful and
hey, that is another thing.
Mind-blowingly,
that's something in the West we hear.
Busy.
It's what we hear in the West. We say it's overcrowded. And so my perception of what Beijing was going to be like, all these cities, I was like, man, it's going to be nuts. There's going to be bikes everywhere, people like climbing over you, and just like crowds everywhere. And that's what we kind of made to believe by the media.
Beijing didn't feel as crowded as
Beijing is so like uniformed. Everything is so uniform. I know it's the political centre, I know but it's so flipping organised. Beijing is incredibly well organised, and that kind of actually takes out a little bit of the fun of Beijing because it's so beautifully organised. It's not as fun, in my opinion, as other cities. Very
structured,
but that is so. Let me tell you, that's not a negative because it's amazingly structured, it's beautifully structured, but it's a little bit too structured to the point that actually I miss the kind of the craziness of Guangzhou. One thing you can notice actually is how patient people are despite it being crowded. Chinese people are incredibly patient. They're not always pushy. The stuff we hear from media, and I've travelled around Southeast Asia and we hear that Chinese are really pushy, you know, they don't queue, all these things. Actually, it's completely wrong. Many Chinese are very, very friendly. They're very supportive. They're very patient. When you go into a restaurant, you don't speak any Chinese. they all work to
Still
try
very
and
helpful,
make
yeah.
it work for you.
Yeah, there's something like, I think we said this before, even in the first trip. When we arrived in China, we thought we'd just come across a lot of like hard-nosed people,
Yeah.
wouldn't want to deal with
Wouldn't want to
us.
trust us, give you
Yeah,
evil,
or just
stare
like,
at you.
yeah, just maybe just like badly staring,
Yes.
or even just like looking through you, just not to help you out.
Mm.
But it's been like the opposite. People were so welcoming and so like forthcoming all the time, and just willing to help you out, even if you don't speak the same language at all. If you can barely communicate, not using translators, which is still quite complicated. Doesn't make sense most of the time.
Translations. That's one other thing. Is
We use that all the
translations in
It's not
China?
always on film, but
No.
it doesn't work.
We always use translations, and let me tell you, translations, Chinese to English, don't work many times, especially food. Some of the food will be like grandma's old recipe bag, and you'll be like, what the hell,
Yeah.
you know, fruit bag or something. But actually, the fruit bag means it's something like, you know,
Yeah. All people, I think all people, all Chinese people who actually studied foreign languages will know
Yeah.
that their Chinese name don't translate.
It's like sometimes me and you have just kind of stood there sometimes and been like, do you know what I mean? Oh, I guess that's just China. And you're like, let's just order it. You know, the old fashioned, we just order it and just hope for the best. Because we eat anything. The only thing in China that scared me the most was the claw, the five-finger peach.
That was a weird one. But some people, to be fair, some people said that even
Was a weird translation.
even people who like chicken feet said that was quite scary.
Yeah.
So
They did.
I'm sure it's not just
And
us.
how weird was that translation? Five-finger peach, that was cool.
Yeah.
It wasn't five-finger peach, was it? Julia was like, oh, I like peach.
I mean, if you don't believe us, just go into any like snack shop or not a big snack shop and try to translate any random snacks. I'm sure you're not going to be able to translate.
The snack
most of
shops
them.
are incredible.
They are incredible. They're one of my favorite things in China.
You have
But
to guess
you can't
everything.
translate
No, you have to guess everything.
The other thing is very surprising about China is it's actually the lack of international restaurants. Have you noticed? In the sense that when you go outside China, wherever you are, if you are, let's say, I mean, I guess in capital cities it's a bit different,
Yeah.
but usually you do find some sort of intellectual restaurants almost everywhere you go. But in China it's different because like 99% of restaurants will be Chinese wherever you go. Obviously different because there's so many cuisines in China. They will maybe do like Sichuan cuisine or different sorts of cuisine, but still Chinese cuisine.
It's true.
Almost exclusively.
It is all, and even in the touristy places, it's like that.
Like Guilin and
basically,
stuff.
if you come to China, guys, you need to like and learn to like what you like in China and understand it. It's going to take time. Don't be afraid when you first come to China. Your first few days it might be stressful, and you might think you're not sure about this country, but give it time. I promise you, it gets better and better. And it won't take 2 weeks. It will take longer. It might take you more than what we took us. It might take you months and months to understand it.
In fact, now
But when it clicks,
we got a technique, or like a little bit of a tip now when we walk around cities and we look at restaurants and stuff, and we kind of know what food we like and what our favourite things like.
Chongqing noodles, Guilin rice noodles for breakfast,
So like we look
all
around,
those things.
and because we
Dumplings.
can't find most things on the map,
Yeah.
so we just look around and we go like, oh, here is a restaurant that does this, and then we just put it down the map and we know how to find it for next time.
We take photos of things and then we save them on our maps,
Location.
because Apple Maps doesn't really work that well at all. And Google Maps doesn't really work at all. So you're kind of...
Yeah, we just take photos so we can find a place again and we know where it is on the map.
You can't translate Chinese names from English into Chinese again and things like that. So,
Yeah,
so
it doesn't.
if you get a restaurant name recommended by someone in the West, then you might see blogs and people will be saying, oh mate, there's blogs on China all the time and stuff like that. There is, but they'll give you, like Singaporeans will write the name in English. Let me tell you, try and translate an English name of a restaurant into Chinese, it doesn't work. Even the addresses
We've
doesn't
actually
work.
done multiple trips where we heard of some like famous restaurants, either in sometimes like Western videos or like said in English or sometimes even Chinese.
Yeah.
And we just put it on our maps and try to get to that place. Let me tell you, 90% of the times you're not gonna find that place.
Mate, have you seen how bright China is in cities? Every city is glowing with lights. It's like best time to walk around China, in my opinion, is at night. It's like, it's incredible.
Yeah, and like an ordinary day in China, it's got much more lights than Christmas lit up street in Europe.
Mate, we get excited about this at Christmas, and in China it's normal.
It's just a normal day at the office.
Mate, honestly, it is incredible. Our perception of China, when you first come, you have these kind of fears and worries of what you hear in the Western media, but actually the truth is when people come, they are completely blown away, they are completely shocked. And most people, if not all, will love China. They've just got to learn to understand what they like about China, because and it's not just one country, it's multiple countries in that sense. It's got so many, it's got something for everyone. And not a lot of countries do have that, and its natural destinations are some of the most beautiful places. The nature is just the nature in China is like nothing you've ever seen before.
It's got nature, it's got the big cities.
Everything is big in China, isn't it?
Everything, yeah. Everything is just big.
Everything is massive. Be prepared. Oh yeah.
I think
cities are huge. Even the tier 2 city. This whole tier 1, tier 2. Mate, Yangshuo is supposed to be a village. Mate, it's like a city compared to us.
It is a city.
It's a city in England. You should see our villages in England, man. Like, you'd be surprised. You'd be like, fuck, these people living in the dark ages. And I'm sure people in the comments will still be like, God, these guys. But let me tell you this. Have a look at this. I think you'll be surprised, and you will certainly love China. Anyway, we'll leave it on that, and see you guys soon.